You want me to come out or it's okay?
You already started, right?
Yeah, we are live now. It's showing
Yeah.
we're live.
You can text. You can text. You can put it in the chat. Yeah, welcome to hello, Vamara.
Yes.
Yeah, now I said what do you want to say? You can put on chat, right?
Right. Thank you.
All right. Welcome to our weekly New Gambia platform talk show. Today is September 11, 2022. Today we're gonna be discussing about two issues here. One is the sit-down strike by Gambia Transport Union. And then the other topic would be the government press conference in response to Banjul project. We're gonna examine these two issues and then, express our opinions and give recommendations as well. And our viewers will also contribute on their comments. So welcome. I have my co-host, Sam Sise from Indiana. Sam, welcome. And my other co-host here, Famara Rami from Washington, Maryland. Famara, welcome.
Thank you, Sawane.
Yeah, I'm your host here, Mumudu Sawane, New York. So let's jump right into it. The Gambian Transport Union, as we know, the reason for their strike is based on the cost crossing Senegambia Bridge, and also the fuel pump hiking price on that, and the police brutality that the drivers encounters. We'll jump right into it. So Sam, you wanna come in first on Famara? What are your thoughts?
I think Vamara can go first since he's got to leave in a little bit. So then I'll come next. Is that okay, Vamara?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you, Sawane, for this week topic of discussion centered on the strike, the proposed strike by the drivers tomorrow, Monday the 12th, right? So yeah, so it's a concern that we need to discuss about, because a lot of people in Gambia depend on public transportation to go to work, to go to hospital, to go and run their businesses, especially our women that depends on transportation early in the morning. They need to take their vegetables to the market, or their dry fish or smoked fish to sell to Serekunda. So if there is no transportation, that is a national concern. And then I hope, the union, before tomorrow morning, hopefully they will come to negotiation with the government and see how best they can resolve this issue. But it's an issue which is of very concern to our citizens. It's a national issue. It needs to be discussed so we can come to terms. The reasons they stipulated or outlined why they're going into strike is basically like the pump gas, the prices of the fuel, the crossing of the bridge, and then also the police presence. Obviously, these are very concerned issues. All right, I'm not sure how much they are paying right now to cross the bridge, but if the drivers feel it is expensive, and then we know most of that bridge, most of the time, the Senegalese too, I don't know whether they are advocating to reduce the price for the Senegalese vehicles going from southern Senegal to Dakar and Dakar to southern Senegal, or it just cross across the board. I'm not sure about how much they're charging right now, but if they think it's expensive, then the government need to review it. And I don't know whether when they are putting up the price or for crossing, the ticket fees for the crossing, whether they have actually consulted the transport union or seek public opinion on the amount that should be levied there. Because I know the ferry was not that very expensive to cross at the time when there was ferry. And I know this bridge also needs to be maintained, and there should be a budget set aside for any future maintenance and all those things. So I think those are issues that we need to, the drivers can take up with government and then discuss it amicably and see how best they can resolve it. But the police presence, that is obvious, because I even see somebody who is a senior government officer, posted on his timeline yesterday, I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, that he's still on the queue, and then they're trying to cross over to the other side of the bridge. And he's telling the police have mounted a checkpoint by the bridge and trying to harass drivers, trying to cross over that end. So that's causing a lot of delays as well. So, and then a lot of people have mentioned about, police checkpoints on our roads, which is very, very far too many. I mean, every kilometer or two, there is a police checkpoint, and you're still, all these, people coming into our country with illegal stuffs and all those things are still on the increase. So I think these are some of the things that we need to regulate, and government also needs to do something about, so that we can see how people can freely move without being harassed by the police, unnecessary checks. And then, sometimes they will receive bribery, because we know that they do that. That is obvious. Most drivers will tell you that they have bribed a police officer on the way. That is obvious. Even the civilians or non, on stuff that you are, even if you go wrong, it's not the police duty to receive something from you or try to seize your driving license and say, come back tomorrow or let's do. If somebody is not doing, there should be a system where you should pay for the price that you violated. If you break the law, you should pay for it, but the money should not go into the wrong hands. There should be a place where the money should be paid, and then and that's the system. All right. So I think those are concerned too. But my concern here is the poor people that are going to be affected by this strike if it happens.
Yeah.
But also the drivers too, they also have some of the attitude of some of our public drivers on the road is not very good. And then also what they introduce in terms of, like, you traveling from Brikama, for example, or from Westfield to Brikama, for example, they will charge you, they will not say we're not going to Brikama. They will just say we are going to Tabokoto, for example. They will collect a fare from you to Tabokoto. You go to Tabokoto, they change their mind and say we are going to Lamen. You go to Lamen again, you pay again to Brikama. So you're trying to collect fare from one person 3 times. That is absolutely unfair.
No.
And the drivers should not be doing that, because that is wrong. But again, it is the government that is responsible for controlling these vehicles or these commercial vehicles, because they pay licensing fee to the government. The government should dictate how they should operate in collaboration with the transport union, so that they don't have to rob passengers, 3 times because they have no option. They are going to work, or they're going to take their produce to the market to sell. They have no option. They have to go by this. So I think those are also concerned on the sides of the drivers that also needs to be addressed as well. Okay, the pump price, the price of gas, obviously, that is international. Even here in the US, the gas has been going up. But I understand someone saying the oil prices are coming down. So Gambia, it's still going up. So I don't know what is the basis, but I'm sure when it comes to gas prices, it's not only Gambia, it's across the globe. Right. So we just have to deal with it until at the time when, all of these, things subsidize, then, things can go back to normal. But so far, so good. These are things that is causing the drivers to go on strike. So this is my take on it. And I hope the government will engage them, like they normally do. When there is a concern, engage them and see how to resolve the problem. Because otherwise, a lot of families are going to be affected. Even those drivers doing sit down, they are family men, Those vehicle owners that are expecting that something is coming in, they're all going to lose for a day. So a lot of millions are going to be lose a day. Some people might not even go to work at all. Some people might be sick. They want to go to hospital, but they don't want to go into that struggle where they have to stand on the road and there'll be very limited vehicle. But I also understand the government now have a lot of public buses available that came not long ago. So I think as a matter of, responding to this issue, I think the government is also ready to, deploy more buses on the road, so that people don't, go into that problem. Yeah, so far, this is my take on the issue. And then thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Mfamara. Sam, what is your take on the drivers sit down strike?
Yeah, first, thank you, Famara. Thank you. I definitely concur with Famara, in all these three areas that he spoke about concerning this issue. That the reasons behind the sit down strike that they plan to do tomorrow, based on those three things that we know of, which is the Ilitenda, Bambatenda, or Transgambia bridge crossing or crossing bridge there. That's one. The other one is the cost of fuel prices. And the third one is the police brutality and harassment that the drivers get on the road. These are all legitimate reasons, and they are things that the government need to look at. I would say first things first, on the bridge, one of the things that we don't do very well in Gambia, or our government don't do very well, is sometimes is do a competitive price survey, do a competitive survey, and see what is happening around us, and what are they doing, what are others doing in terms of charging certain things, and make sure that they are reasonable when they put in prices on anything, and not go overboard to really impact people. So that's one. And I've said this in the past in my audios as well, is the government, anything that deals with prices, they need to post a tariff, make tariffs and put them out so people can see them everywhere they go, announce them on radio, television, put them out frequently. If there's any change coming down, they need to announce those changes as well. People should not be surprised and go to a place and then something that costs $10 or $10, and then now is going to 20 without any prior notification to the public. So the government need to understand that they are serving the public, and these public servants need to know what their job is, and their job is really, they are tasked to make people's life easier, not to make it harder. Instead, we're making it harder for people in the Gambia. So they really need to put those tariffs off after they do their competitive survey and look at what they're going to charge for the bridge. Second is the fuel price. Fuel price is worldwide right now. Is a global impact on the consumers, because fuel prices went up. Part of the reason was the Ukraine war, and of course the other part is the inflation. So all of that being said, gas prices are up, and everywhere they're up, but anything that goes up must come down. So at some point it's going to come down, and when it comes down, our government, anything that goes up must come down. So at some point it's going to come down, and when it comes down, I'm not sure why I'm getting an echo here. Anything that goes up must come down. So at some point it's going to come down, and when it comes, all right, it stopped. So I'm not sure why that. How did that happen?
Sorry, it happens.
Yeah. So anyway, so our government really need to be in tune to make sure that they are staying on top of prices, fuel prices, crude oil prices, and things like that, to make sure they make their adjustments based on that availability, based on supply and demand. Supply and demand is what determines this. So they need to be able to stay on top of that and make sure that the Gambian people are reasonably charged for that. That's very important. We can't say, well, I can't say too much about fuel prices because, like I said, is international, is global. It's a global issue, not just in Gambia. But the key here for the drivers is, if they're paying this much in fuel prices, and the fares that they charge to consumers are this low, they're in business to make money, and if they're not making money, that's going to impact their cost of living. So there should be some room here where they can really balance this out, so they can make a little bit of money as well, because that's what they're in for. But at the same time, I think it was last week or week before, I talked about this, the public transportation. Public transportation is very important for the government to provide that for the people. When they provide public transportation, people have the ability to go through the public transportation rather than going through all these taxis like Famara was explaining. What he was explaining is definitely true. I heard that too. The drivers will pick up passengers from Brikama and they get to Lamin and they said, oh, that's where they're stopping. So you pay the fare to break from Brikama to Lamin, and then they're going to go from Lamin to Westfield, and then they charge you when your original intention is to go to Westfield or to go to Serakunda. So they're double dipping. That's what that is, double dipping.
Yeah.
Drivers should not be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Really, the solution for that is the government need to create a hotline for drivers that do that. For passengers to be able to take a picture of that vehicle and report to the police that this driver, they need to make strict laws on that. So that, if people can take pictures of any driver that does that to them, really, and their vehicle plate number and send it to the police can look for the driver and pull them and question them. Why did they do that? Maybe even arrest them. If they set an example, then it will stop. But as long as there's no example being set for consequences of such actions, it's going to continue to happen. So, and this is one area our government need to do a better job on. But we can't allow taxi drivers to charge their own and pick different destinations every time when you have passengers that want to travel from Brikama to Serakunda and you charge them 3 different fares when you should be charging them one fare from Brikama straight to Serakunda. It will make sense if a driver leaving Brikama, for example, going to Serakunda, saying that I'm going to Serakunda. If you want to go to Serakunda, here's your fare. If you're only going to stop at Lamin, this is what you pay. So that will make sense. At least you announce it ahead of time when passengers are in their vehicle. That will make sense to the passengers and people will understand. So someone dropping at Lamin will pay less compared to someone going all the way to Serakunda. So these are things that we need to make sure that doesn't happen. On the other side, which is the police brutality. I don't know why we have that many checkpoints in the country. It really shouldn't be happening there. Is a way to really slow down the traffic. And part of the reason traffic is very congested in Gambia is for that reason. There are too many checkpoints. The roads are not wide enough, too many cars for the roads that we have. So police job serving the public should make it much easier for people, not harder for people. So by eliminating those checkpoints and really allowing the flow of traffic to go as normal, as usual. I mean, in the United States here, you can drive. I mean, I've driven a car. I mean, I've driven here from Indiana to New York. I've never seen any police checkpoint there. 12 hours, never seen a police checkpoint anywhere. The only time you stop is, if you get to a toll road, you go to a toll booth, you pull up there and you grab a ticket. As soon as you get there, you grab a ticket. On your way out, when you're getting out of that toll road, you pay there. That's simple. That's not the police. That's the transportation. The people that collect the toll for the government, the revenue for the government, but not the police. So the police really shouldn't be on the road with all these checkpoints and blocking drivers and stopping them and all of that stuff. So really not a good thing. It's just bad. It's just bad for our public transport. So we need to come up with a better idea. Our Gambia government need to come up with a better idea to stop such from happening. And I've made some recommendations before. Anywhere they collect money, there should be transparency, there should be accountability, but there should also be reconciliation. So if they put anywhere, for example, I mean, the only place I can think of is the Trans-Gambia, that bridge. If they put a toll booth there and they put like 5 cashier booths in there, 6 or 7, 8, depending on what they can have, put those in there. So 5, 6, 7 vehicles or 8 vehicles can all come together and go to one booth and then pay their toll there. And that toll should be something that's announced. It should be a tariff that's posted everywhere. You can see it along the way. Every mile you can see a poster, a billboard that shows how much you're gonna pay. So when they get there, those booths, cashiers in those booths really need to have cash registers where they ring every transaction, and those transactions will be registered somewhere. So there is accountability and reconciliation. And at the end of everyone's shift, that amount need to be collected and accounted for. And the government need to make sure that they're getting every single dime out of that, and nothing is going into anybody's pocket. And police have no business being on the road to interrupt people. And that's what I want to stop for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that is such a huge, I mean, a huge information out there that you guys have put in. So Sam, I'm just gonna since you guys you and Farmer already spoke in details about some of these issues, including the bridge, which is connected, which is a Bambatenda that Soma and the Farafenni bridge, where Senegalese used that route to Trans-Gambia route to go transport goods from Gambia to Senegal, or from customers to Senegal. The charges there, they complaining are expensive. They are unaffordable. So that is the reason of one of the reason that they're striking. So what do you think government could do to make it easier on these drivers, in your assessment?
Yeah, they need to do a survey. Like I said, they need to do a survey and see what's reasonable, because if you survey similar bridges in Africa, there in the west coast of Africa, say in our sub-region there, and look at what are they charging? What is the equivalent of that to Gambian Dalasi? You know, and look at certain conditions around it, all the aspects around it, have those experts analyze that, and they are going to find out that Gambia may be charging way too much. And if so, we need to lower the charge. And when we lower the charge, we need to announce it, but also with the effective date, it needs to be on television, it needs to be on radio stations. All the government agencies need to announce that, but most importantly, post the tariff. They need to post the tariff for people to see it, so there's no questions. And when they do that, I think that will be part of the solution, just by doing a competitive survey to see what others are charging, what are the neighbors charging for their bridges, you know, and see what can Gambia do, because anything that's gonna again be a burden for our public is not good. The government's responsibility, and one of the things that they're tasked to do, is to make it easy for people, you know, public safety, you know, and they are public servants. They are there to serve the public. So make the public's life easier. Don't make it harder on them. That's what the government needs to do.
Okay. Now, what about the fuel issue? We've seen a huge increase in fuel prices. If you're driving, you would know, everywhere in the world, including, you know, folks here in the US. Do you think, like, drivers complaining about this, the government can do anything to mitigate that?
Well, yes, absolutely. The government can really look at, you know, from our revenue department, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Trade, the government really. There are certain things that they can look into, and what that involves is look at how much are they getting fuel, and really determine what is reasonable for the government to make on that fuel. How much tax do they collect on that fuel? What can they do to really make it easy for the public, because that's their job. They should not be making things harder for people. They should make it easier for people. We know that fuel cost is global. It's a global issue, but it is going down. It continue to drop. It'll go back. There's always restorations where they go back up a little bit, and then they will end up going back down. So that is out there, and the government really, the other part that the government can do to help the public, because they're there for the public, is to really generate more public transportation. More public transportation will alleviate the complaint from the people taking taxis. If there are more, say for example, if there is a bus route from Brikama to Serakunda every day, back and forth, 2-3 buses going that route, or maybe 2 buses going back and forth, and there's no police checkpoint on the way for the buses or for people. Those buses, and people you can leave Brikama and get to Serakunda very easily, because there are bus stops. There are only places that they're going to stop to pick up or drop off people. So the government creating more public transportation, which also normally is cheaper than what a taxi driver would charge you, This is what's going to put some money back into people's pocket, because someone from Brikama that used to travel, someone that lives in Brikama and travel to Banjul every day, for example, it cost him a lot of money in fare. If there is the public transportation that is probably close to half of what they would normally pay for a taxi, boy, they will jump on the public transportation. And those public new buses are brand new buses. They should be able to run freely. And of course, they have air conditioning. They are safer. I mean, people will jump on those and go to Banjul rather than taking a taxi to go to Serakunda from Serakunda to Banjul. So the government needs to think outside of the box and think about things like that and do that. And I understand they have new buses out there. I hope the new buses are being utilized for the country and for the citizens of the Gambia, for the public, to make public transportation easier. So the Department of Transportation really need to tackle that to see what they can do to make it easier for people. Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Now the whole entire strike, do you think it has a base, like it has substances that warrant them to sit down and do a sit down strike? Because usually you do a strike to get something out of it. Okay, so being that, looking at the fare issue, I mean the cost of the expenses on crossing the bridge, Senegambia Bridge, that's something that you need to do a survey, try to find out the right price. That would take a lot of time and a lot of work, considering that how quick that could take place, and then this strike is on. So that's another asshole. And then also considering the high cost of fuel at the pump, that is also something is global. It's going to be difficult to suppress that price to meet the demands of these drivers. And of course, police brutality, that's something maybe that could be addressed right away and get an effect, improvement can be made on that. But among these three things that they're mentioning, do you think there's a way that it could be negotiated so that drivers can go back to work? I mean, it's going to be a challenge. I mean, for the fuel and then for the cost of the Senegambia Bridge. What do you think?
Yep, I think there is a way out. There is some room for improvement and there is some room for negotiation. I will start with the bridge part. The part of the bridge is if it's the same price that they're charging for every size vehicle that they have, that's consistent. There may not be a whole lot they can do there. That's consistent, but really continue to do what I just asked them to do a survey and see if we're overcharging people. If so, lower the prices. If not, then come out and tell the people, all right? So when it comes to gas prices, fuel prices, this is a global issue, like I said. However, the government can do something. One of the things that they can do is maybe lower the tax on fuel. If they lower the tax on fuel to pass that savings to the public, which means pass the savings to, not necessarily taxi drivers, but anyone that drives a vehicle will benefit from that. The taxi drivers will benefit from that. Then they will also condition them, if we lower the tax on fuel, you've got to lower, we're going to set standards. And I think there was a few months ago, I heard an announcement, I think on the radio, they were saying that there was a tariff about how much people should pay from place to place. They put that out there. That is something that needs to be posted. It needs to be on radio and televisions, and they continue to advertise that for people to be aware. So taxi drivers cannot just charge people their own. So if they lower the taxes on fuel to be able to benefit people, let's say they pick 90 days, the next 3 months, while we're in this impact. So for that 90 days, they lower the prices only because they want to save the consumers money. So the savings go down to all consumers, including taxi drivers, but those who don't have a car that pays taxi should also feel the impact. They should also get something out of it, the benefit of it. The benefit will be lower taxi fare. Even if it's $5 off the price, they need to be able, taxi drivers need to be able to lower that, but the government need to really work with this transport union and come up with something very reasonable, good for the taxi drivers, but good for the public as well. And government can take that hit by lowering the taxes a little bit because there are other areas that they're making a lot of money. And instead, try to close the loopholes on where you're losing money and save that money back to the country. That's what you need to do. That's what they need to do. Save money, close loopholes in certain areas, kill that corruption if you can, work on the corruption and get that out, but try to save the public. That's one way they can do that. And last but not the least, the police brutality, of course, they can talk about it. Remove all these checkpoints there. Police can be out there, but watch out for those drivers that are reckless drivers or drivers that are not law abiding, that are using excessive driving skills or aggressive drivers. And also there's one thing I wanted to say in my mind here is drivers that overload their vehicles where the public become unsafe at that point. If they see vehicles that are overloaded and drivers that are aggressive drivers or reckless drivers, those are the ones that they need to keep their eyes on. Other than that, let people go. Let the drug trafficking department, drug enforcement officers do their job for looking for drug traffickers and really follow those and pull them and get them off the street. That's what they need to do. But they need to let that flow of traffic go smoothly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So finally, do you think that this thing worth the strike though?
Well, a strike is anybody doing a strike, a group of people, workers or union workers, they have a reason for their strike, and the government need to listen to them. And the government needs to really sit down with them and tell them what they can do and what they're going to do, but also keep their words to make sure anything that they say they're going to do it. You know, that's what they need to do. They need to listen to them. Just by sitting down and negotiating with them can save the public from going through difficult times of getting transportation. So the government needs to listen to them, meet with them and talk.
So it's worth it.
I mean, for them, it's worth it because they are demanding something, because they are tired. They have their reasons, and this is where the government needs to come to the negotiation table, because if they could sit down and do that sit-down strike, they're going to impact the public. Well, the government is the public servant. They're there to defend and help and make things easier for the public. So the government need to go to that negotiation table and sit with them and negotiate.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. So now I hope, with this strike, like you mentioned earlier, we don't have issues where people are late for work. Government not able to manage anything, because the fact of the matter is, if drivers sit down and strike, I mean, where are you gonna get all these vehicles to transport people to various, errands? It's gonna be nearly impossible.
Yep. That's why I said the government needs to go to a negotiating table with them, because the government employees themselves will be impacted. They can't go to work. If they can't go to work, well, guess what? Immigration may not be issuing passports. Guess what? The hospital workers, think about them. Teachers going to school to go teach. We have all these public servants that will be impacted. And if they don't want that, go to negotiating table and sit with them and negotiate and stop the strike from happening, because it will have a tremendous impact on everyone.
But something that is gonna take place tomorrow.
Yeah.
How are you gonna go to the negotiating table if you haven't been there already?
That means somebody is not doing their job. Somebody is not doing their job. If they allow this strike to go through tomorrow and they have not negotiated anything, they've not done anything and talked to them and arrange for a meeting tomorrow and put that strike on hold, then they've not done their job. If I were in their position, that's what I would have done. If I don't want to strike and I'm in the government official's position, I would have arranged at least a week ago and talk with them, have a meeting tomorrow, have a meeting a day before tomorrow, like before tomorrow, like this past week, they should have had a meeting. If not, at least negotiate to have a meeting tomorrow, postpone the strike, bring them to the table, sit down and talk and negotiate and come to an agreement. That way you can avoid the strike. If they didn't do that, then they didn't do their job.
Then they have less than 24 hours to go about that.
Yeah. So like I said, and this is part of our problem in Gambia, There are people in certain positions that don't know their job. They are not doing the job. They don't know what they're there for, you know, because if you're a public servant, your job is to make everything easy for the public. So do your job and make things easy for the public. Do not let the public go through this. You know, if you let the public go through this, it's bad for the administration. It's bad for the current government. That means if these continue to happen, the current government, when it comes to the next election, the public can say, well, guess what? We're not going to vote for this government because we've had problems. We elected them to represent us. We elected them to make our lives easier. Instead, our lives went from bad to worse. So let's not vote for them. That's the consequence they get.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. It's easier said than done. I hope they come to the negotiating table and have something before tomorrow, because like you said, we cannot afford to have this strikes goes on. One thing, you know, it would disrupt everything, especially, you know, employees going to work in businesses as usual will be disrupted. And who knows, some people might might even end up you know, getting affected. Yeah, people like in the hospitals, you know, if there's no, you know, transport, how can people go, nurses, doctors get there on time? So these are some of the things, like you said rightly, leadership and people responsible should be proactive about, because if you have an issue and people are threatening to do a strike, which is really, really gonna cost, you know, the country or human lives or something like that, you need to be in the forefront to make sure that those things never come true. Because right now people are, I mean, as we stand right now, we don't know any specific, you know, any specifics about the strike. We don't know whether it has been postponed or it's no more gonna take place. So people are getting nervous, and then businesses are also threatened. So I think it's always, you know, when employees or when government, I mean, civil servants or whatever categories you might be, when they express certain discontent, I think it's better to address that, right, and get to the bottom of it, you know, in a negotiating table and see what can you, you know, give and take, right, from both ends.
Yep.
Because I don't
Absolutely.
think the drivers will also intend to make their citizens go through this.
Absolutely.
So it is very important to take care of that. Yeah. So that being said, I think we can just jump to the next next segment of this discussion, which is the government's press conference.
You can, I was going to say, you can start this. I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to switch and get on my phone because I need to drop my son off to school for basketball tryouts, and then I'll be right back. But definitely start it. I'll switch. I'll get off my computer and go to my phone, and I'll be on maybe on audio for a little bit until I can get back and get on video at some point.
Yeah. Okay. So this particular segment of the discussion, we discussed here before about you know, like the Banjul Road. I think that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
we did.
Yeah. So we said that, you know, there were been a lot of you know, back and forth about the Banjul roads, especially when this storm came. It's proof that the construction didn't go the way it's supposed to. $25 million was used. Some say it's more than that. And the storm has really, the rain has really got us to believe that that project didn't go through the way it's supposed to. So the main idea here is that the government came and responded in a press conference. I didn't watch the entire press conference, but I know Sankare came, and then some journalists, they came to see what the government has to say. But the only big elephant in the room that was missing, the only big elephant in the room that was missing was the contractor himself. Adam Gay. He was not in that press conference. So why? We don't know. Many people question that, but the fact of the matter is the government is trying to say that the Banjul road was really something that they did their best, and unfortunately the situation happened like this. But that's not that's not how what we expect this to do. We want to make sure that when we get into contracts, when we go into negotiations, when we're doing things, the goal of those contracts are met, the standards that were set, the standards that were set are met, patients are met, and all the things that we hope to get from this kind of work. So I think we are far behind at the country when it comes to getting our stuff together, and that has, we have seen that in this Banjul project. Although from the point of view of looking at everything, if you go to Banjul, you would see that the roads are constructed. Yes, things are looking good. To the government about that, but things that are most important, I would say, which is the drainage, was something that was never taken care of, and that's why we had that flood. So why that was not taken care of, nobody can explain that here in this platform. But as a contractor, I think it is really important for you to know that when you are constructing something, you need to find waterways. And Adam Gay, who was responsible for this contract, should have the expertise to advise government that this need to be built, no matter how much the cost should be. So whether that was communicated or not, we don't know. And at this point, if he's not on the sitting table during this conference, how are we gonna ask him? Nobody would have, he would be asking somebody who is not at the conference. And when you ask the government officials what they tell you, what they know as far as we know, So the whole entire thing come to a point that we are just in the limbo as of now. Yeah. Hello?
Yes, I'm here, I'm listening, so just getting ready here. So, but yeah, absolutely, what you said is definitely true. That whole contract negotiation did not go correct. It did not go well because not only that is it did not go the right way. There should have been a bid standard for that contract, and that didn't happen. They just solely picked one person, one contractor, and gave him this contract, which should not have happened, really should not have happened. So they started on the wrong foot. That's why they ended up on the wrong foot. I think in this situation, what really needs to happen is we need to get our National Assembly members to ask to investigate this and come out and tell the public what happened and what went wrong and how are they going to fix this. That would be very important. Our National Assembly needs to get involved because they represent the people, and that's why we elected them and put them in the office. So it's just like we said last week, how we talked about it last week. It's very important for our National Assembly members to really get up and represent the people and find the truth and do the right thing for the Gambian people, because this is unacceptable. The work there was a very poor job that ended up at Gambia's taxpayers' expense, and we cannot afford that. So we need to indemnify this loss by really having this Adam Gay held accountable. And all of those that were involved, our National Assembly has the right to call them. Adam Gay, the former Minister of Finance, former Minister of Works, and all of those, they all need to be involved. They all need to be called to the National Assembly to testify. That's what the Gambian people need. So we know the truth, so we can know what happened, what went wrong, who played what part, where is our money? Because the job did not get done right. So where is our money? This is what Gambians need to find out and find the truth. Once we do that, that will be from where they should start. So yeah, I'm gonna pause here for a little bit. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think we have Pamela on now, so he can take it from here. I mean, I'm looking at some of the explanation that this conference, folks did here, and they're talking about tax exempted was added, from this contract negotiation. That certain taxes on this project are funded by the state or donor organizations. The Gambian Revenue Authority, Yankuba Dabo, said that the contractor met all tax obligations and submitted audit accounts on time. They're saying that officials say that the powerful pump machine had now been installed in the city, and the machine, they said, will be able to efficiently empty flooded water from the city. This is coming from the government officials saying that they have installed the machine that will be emptying the flooded water from the city. So I guess, there's a machine that's supposed to pump the water out. I don't know. I don't know how this thing actually is, but Mpamara, if you can come. I was just reading it from GRTS news. Yeah. Can you hear us, Mpamara?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sawane. Thank you so much. The major press conference, it was, they say it was a major press conference. I thought it was going to be a well detailed, well, actually, let's say, I mean, they made a very good presentation about the project and what their plans are. But, a lot of things that people have been asking did not come out very well. And then, unfortunately, the contractor was not available to explain some of those concerns that the public have in terms of how much money has been invested in this, And first of all, we understand that it was going to be a pre-finance project. That means the contractor was going to deal with everything. But we've seen the government has already, put some money. Of course, what they mean by pre-financing, which Honorable Silla clarified a little bit, because they said the contractor has started, excavating or digging out some of the gutters, even well before the project starts. So this means obviously whatever resources that went into doing that activity was something that the contractor already pre-financed, So yes, so that's the some of the things that concern that people have, the amount of money, because 40 million US dollars is a big lot of money, that's a whole lot of money, and they're looking at the job that has been done, and then the engineering aspect of it, obviously, because that contributed to the flooding that Banjul experienced recently, because even though 10 years ago we had flood, and of course, even 2015, there was flood, but Banjul did not experience what we experienced this year, and then part of the job that has been done into this Banjul project contributed to it, because we have seen from the Bone Road side, especially the Tambi wetland side, we have seen that the contractor has backfilled part of the wetland complex, in order to create space for a container, which got nothing to do with this project altogether. So that project actually contributed to what we are experiencing today, because we all know the wetland bodies, they act like a sponge, the wetland ecosystem act like a sponge. When we have flood coming in, the wetland ecosystem absorb that water, contain it, so that the flood can be reduced, the risk of being flooded can be reduced. So now if somebody, went and backfill part of that area that is acting like a a catchment or a sponge, to contain these flood waters. And the part of that area has been lost because they have backfilled the area, and use it for a purpose which is definitely incompatible with the conservation measures, because that area is already a national park. It is a national park. It's one of the Gambia's, they call it the Ramsar site, the wetlands of international importance, because there is this international convention called the Ramsar Convention. Ramsar Convention is a convention that come about, all the wetland areas in the world, so important, and Gambia is a signatory to that convention. And then one of those, Tambi wetland, and then Baobolong wetland in NBR is one of those wetland complex we have in the Gambia. And we're also part of Nyomi, and then also the proposed site from my area in Brufut, the Banjul Islands. Those are all areas that are all proposed areas. These ones are already Tambi wetland, wetlands of international, Tambi and Baobolong, and of course Nyomi. So now any activity going into that area should be, incompatible with conservation objectives, So I don't know who give them the authority, where they got the authority from for the contractor to do that, but it is incompatible. It is wrong. It's against the law. So that also contributed. Now coming to the engineering aspect, which contributed to the flood. Thank God the machine is now running. And we have seen that when the floods are in Banjul, they put up that machine and to pump out some of the water to go into the river, which was very good. And this is what we expect. And that's one part of the project, because some of the waters that are coming in from Banjul, they are emptying into the Tambi wetlands. So when the flow is more, then we need to find a way out to remove that flow from the other side to the river, so that the city will not be flooded, because the vulnerability assessment that has been done in the past has revealed that Banjul is very vulnerable to sea level rise, to very vulnerable to storms, flooding, So these are all mechanisms that the project is going to address.
So let me ask you one thing here. If the machine is that machine is broken, what happened? Then that means there wouldn't be any water wouldn't go to the river. It won't be pumped, right?
Yeah, if it is broken, unless they have another mechanism to pump the water out if the machine is broke. But generally, these machines they do take a long time before they broke. It needs regular maintenance. There will be also warning signs in when the machine is not working.
Or do they have a standby machine to kick in?
Yeah, okay. Usually in the normal circumstances, it's not only be one pump. It should be more than one pump, at least two pumps. If one is running, the other one is not running. If the other one break down, there should be one that is going to be functional. And then the tendency for two machines to break down will be very low. So you see that when one machine broke down, another one will at least work, so that they can have time to work on the problem that the other one have, so that we don't go without a machine. And it's usually most of the time that rainy season that we have that whole amount of flow of water in Banjul. So in the dry season, we don't experience a lot of flood water. So what they have to deal with is the sewage. The sewage part is what is also a concern here, because Banjul, the number of households we have in Banjul and all the public institutions, including State House, all the public facilities there. If all those sewages are connected to one system, you will realize that the amount of sewage that we're going to generate in a day will be probably between 150 to 200,000 gallons a day. So that's a whole lot of sewage. So there should be a plan for that. And that's what I'm not seeing in the presentation. What they said in the presentation, what they proposed to do was they are going to pump, the sewage into the river or into the sea, and which obviously environmentally is not friendly. A raw sewage cannot go into the sea where people use for swimming or tourists use for swimming, because Banjul is a tourist area. It's a very busy area. We at least have at least two hotels on that area. We have an Atlantic Hotel there. Of course, the other one has closed down a long time ago. but there are other, facilities, public facilities where people can use. Even our, our ferry services, you never know. If you pump the raw sewage in the sea, we don't even know which part of the sea is going. But the water, flows from one end to another. And then we have a lot of.
So it will be carrying those feces and then floating them around.
Yeah, it's not good for marine and coastal biodiversity. It's not good for our health. It's not good for the fish that we are in the ocean. Because when the sewage is dumped into ocean, it is going to create a lot of, pollution that is going to have, risks to our health. So I think they need to plan to have at least a small treatment plan. If the budget of the project they don't have enough budget, I think they should create, whether they are going to ask for funding from international organizations or whether they're going to go back to National Assembly, and then, do a supplementary budget or whatever it is, so they can have a small treatment plan in Banjul, what we call the flow equalization basin, whereby all the sewage connected to the system will all empty in somewhere, which is going to be controlled. And, with time, with the treatment, the biological treatment, and on some of the chemicals that we are going to introduce into those wastewaters will at least reduce the bacteria level, that will be harmless to the water body, or it will be harmless to the marine and coastal biodiversity, or even human beings when they get in touch with that water. So that should be factored in the Banjul project. That way, Banjul can have a treatment plan that obviously, if the project phase out, the Banjul City Council, can take over, and see how, with the support of the government, they can continue using that as a treatment plan for Banjul, so that our ecosystem can be healthy. We can also be healthy and protect ourselves from infections and other diseases connected to raw sewage. Yeah, so that area, I did not see that in the press conference, and that has not been highlighted, apart the fact that they said they are going to pump the water into the sea, which obviously should not be done. And in fact, it's a violation of our National Environment Management Act. It's a violation of the Biodiversity and Wildlife Act. Nobody is allowed to pump or dump a wastewater into the water body, without taking permission. And I'm sure NEA will not give them the permission to do that. But whether they have even consulted NEA in the first place is a question, So government need to look into that properly if they are coming really to address the issue of Banjul, because sewage is one of them. Because without the sewage proper management and control of sewage, Banjul is still going to be, because like some of the areas in Banjul, you cannot even dig a toilet there, because once you dig 1 or 2 meters, you are in the water, and then those pit latrines get flooded when there's too much water. So there should be a proper waste management system, and Banjul is not that very big, so we can be able to do that, and make sure that our ecosystem and our environment is clean and people's health are also protected. Because otherwise, where those wastewater are going to end up, it's not only going to stop in Banjul, it can even spread to Bakau and all those tourism development areas, where the hotels are concentrated, and a lot of tourists and citizens are going out during Sunday big programs to go and swim, and then you end up having some skin diseases that you don't know where they come from. Yeah, so I think that's very important for government to look into that. And too much money has been spent on this project. So it's beyond only concreting the streets of Banjul and then providing the pump. It's more than that. We need to see a comprehensive plan that is going to help us to reduce the disaster risks, of Banjul in terms of flooding and then other, natural disasters. Yeah.
Thank you, Famara. So I would have to ask, a few questions here. You and Sam, when you and Sam. So you mentioned that. So technically, if you're looking at this, the home framework is that the waste. We have two issues: the waste,
yes,
and then the flood water.
Right.
Both of these are not, being mitigated properly. There is no plan that is working you know, that we can be sure that will continue to work at this point. They have the machine running to pump the water out in case it flooded again, correct?
Right.
Right. What about the waste?
Yeah, the waste component is what we did not hear a lot from this the presentation they had. And I don't know whether they have another plan that they did not mention, but the waste component is not addressed, you know, in the presentation. All we hear is we are going to dump the sewage into the sea, you know. But whether they're going to treat the sewage or whether they're going to have anything before they dump the water, because you can dump, you know, wastewater. Once you treat it, you can dump it into the sea, and that's okay. But before you dump it, you have to make sure that the bacteria, you know, the ammonia in the wastewater, you know, is not at that high level, you know. So the water needs to be checked, you know, with the pH level, you know, the dissolved oxygen in the wastewater needs to be recorded, you know, and then the ammonia also needs to be, we have to know that, you know, because if you don't do that and you dump a wastewater with high ammonia, you know, I mean, it's going to cause a lot of impact, you know, in the wastewater, you know, in the other marine and, you know, coastal, you know, environment. And that's going to have an impact on people's health, you know, including our fish that we depend on for our livelihood, you know. So that's something that's needed to be very clear. And then the flooding aspect of it, yes, the flooding aspect, they deal with that because they're pumping the water, you know, from Banjul to the lagoon, all right, which is okay, because we are going to see more flooding coming, because now the streets have been, the pavements in Banjul or the streets in Banjul are now concrete. This means now the water is not going to be absorbed by the soil anymore. There is no penetration, there is no infiltration of water to the ground, okay? So now all the water is going to be on these concrete pillars and they go somewhere. So you make the gutters, you open up the gutters, or maybe you construct new ones, yes. But now all those have to connect and go somewhere. And that's where the lagoon is. So if they don't have a pumping system, you know, then it's going to be difficult to control that flood water coming from the city going into the wetland area. But now that they have that, a pump in place and the pumping machine is working, and I hope they have more than one machine so that if one broke, we don't have to wait for ages before another one will come. So if they have two there, one is working, the other one is stopping. When the other ones go bad, automatically this one will switch over and alternate so that water can pump out. So that one, I can say they have a plan in dealing with flooding, taking the water out from the street to the lagoon and the lagoon from one side to the other side, okay? But the sewage part is not clear, and that is our worry also here, because the human health is very important, because otherwise the government will have to deal with, you know, disease outbreak sooner or later, which is not only going to stop from Banjul, but it might spread to other parts of the country too, like other region in KMC, or even go to, you know, North Bank. You never know, because the people are just, you know, because the amount of wastewater going to be generated in Banjul over a period of time, you know, you're talking about 150 to 100 200 gallons a day. So multiply that by a month, a year, for 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or what to the lifetime of the project. That's going to be a whole lot of gallons of waste we are going to be putting in the sea. So we must graduate from that and be environmentally conscious, you know, treat the water before we discharge them in the sea, so that we know that our ecosystem will be safe, people's health will not be compromised, you know, our fish in the ocean will not be polluted, you know, then we can have a good health. Yeah, so we're going to challenge on the Banjul project team on that, and the government, you know, to ensure that the law is respected, especially where environmental law is respected. And I think NEA should also step up and inquire from the project team if they have not involved them or consulted them, you know, so that they can find out what is their plan in terms of dealing with the sewage.
Very good, very good. Yeah, so I'm Famara. I mean, Sam. Sam, you can hear me? Sam cannot hear me, right? Yeah, maybe he's muted. Yeah, so I'm Famara. you think the machine would be able to control all these waters? Let's say it is raining like 12 hours straight and you have all this water coming. You think it can control it, send it to the lagoon? And where does he process the water again? Or is it just dumping it in the ocean? I mean, in the river? I couldn't hear you. I think you are muted.
Yeah, I think they are dumping the water on the other side, which goes into the sea or to the river in the mangrove ecosystem. So hopefully that will help reduce. So I don't know whether that's the only outlet that they want to pump the flood water to. I don't know whether they have any other outlet that could go another where else, different from the river. But the other thing is people are also harvesting water. Rainwater, people do rainwater harvestment. So this means instead of all the water going to the lagoon, they can direct some rainwater go somewhere else, in a reservoir, whereby people can utilize the water again, either for gardening. I'm not sure if they do gardening in Banjul, whether there is any land for gardening and stuff like that. But that's another way of, trapping water so that people can, reduce the amount of water that goes into the lagoon. So that can be a water, they can do that. They can do water, how do they call it? Water catching. They can do water, how do they call it again? Yeah, they can do that too. Water harvesting. They call it rainwater harvesting. So you can have big containers, reservoir, whether it's going to be a small, big ones, or you can have, an area, you can create it whereby a large, quantity of water from people's house or from the street can go somewhere else apart from the water. But I think the lagoon or the wetland area that we have in Banjul or in Tambi wetlands is big enough. If at all the structures are not, encouraging it into the area like they're trying to do in Bone Road right now, or they already did in Bone Road, trying to create a space for the containers. If they could stop those kind of developments, then probably that wetland area would be able to contain the amount of water that is coming from Banjul, and then also create additional, reservoir that will also contain water. I think they can do that, even if we have too much rain in Banjul.
Okay. Now, Mfamara, are you there? I mean, Sam, are you there?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I'm back now.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I know you're following.
Yep. Yeah. I missed some because when I got in my car, there was some point I did not hear anything at all, and then all of a sudden, then they came through and I started hearing. Then I got back home after I dropped my son. Got back home and then I lost connection as well. I wasn't hearing anything until now. So, but anyway, thank God I'm back. So, yes. So, just like I said earlier, this whole thing did not go right. It's just like when you're planning to go to the grocery store to come and cook, and you buy your stuff and then the peppers and onions, you got rice, you got stuff, then now you come back and find out that there's no place to cook. You don't have a place to cook. It's just like that. So because we did not have the right people from the beginning to talk about this negotiation, to talk about that contract, because we had people that were involved in this contract that had no clue what they were doing. Because all of these should have been questions that should have been asked from the beginning. You don't build roads, without thinking about the underground storage. I mean, the underground storage of or underground piping of sewage and all of that stuff, the waterway and all of that. You need to think about all of that. Why didn't they do all of that from the beginning? But wait until this last minute to find out when there's heavy rains in Gambia and Banjul started flooding. On the other side, when it comes to pumping sewage in the water, really, that's not a good idea. That really shouldn't happen, just like Famara said, because now they're going to contaminate that water. And contaminated water can really host a lot of things. You could have bacteria in there. You can have parasites in there. You can have all of those things that will impact people. And pumping sewage into our water system in Banjul there, I can tell you this: you're looking out for an outbreak coming out because a lot of people can get sick from that contaminated water. The tourists are going to get sick when they go into that water. The fish is going to die. A lot of things can happen. If there is any one little contamination there, it can really spread out. With those bacteria, can really spread out. Some of them come from a contaminated water.
So just a point here. I know you are into food safety.
Yep.
Since this is a salt water, would salt water not neutralize any of this waste because of the salinity of the water?
Not necessarily.
Salt water usually fight bacteria. Am I correct?
Well, bacteria, remember, salt water will fight that. But again, we've seen, even in the United States here, we've seen contaminated water from a salty area that really caused an outbreak. And I'll give you an example. There was one time, I can't remember where it happened in the States here. I think it's on the southern part, where a group of Mexican workers were working in a farm, and from the farm, they were harvesting lettuce. All right.
Right.
Lettuce, vegetables. So they were harvesting lettuce. And when they harvest them, they follow the assembly system, and they were washing them with water that was contaminated. And this contaminated water got onto that lettuce. And when that lettuce made their way to the grocery stores and people bought lettuce, and of course you don't cook lettuce, so they made salad. A lot of people got sick, and they followed the SARS. And when CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, followed the SARS, they found out that those Mexican workers were using contaminated water to wash those lettuce. So contaminated water can really cause a big impact, can cause an outbreak. And that was an outbreak. So very, very important to make sure that, like Farmer said, the water, there should be water treatment center. Water need to be treated first before they can release all of that into the sea. That's the key. If they didn't do that, they didn't think about that from the beginning, well, shame on them. I'll put it that way. Shame on them. They didn't know what they were doing. And unfortunately, people got involved in this contract that should not have been involved. From all the things that I heard, between the former Minister of Finance, Minister of Works, and then you have Elijah Caesar from the president's office. Involved in all of these. These people didn't have any hands in this. He should not have been involved in this at all. But they all, it all boils down to corruption, because they didn't follow the steps. They didn't follow the proper protocol. The protocol should be, this contract should have been gone through our GPPA, Gambia Public Procurement Authority. That should have bet out these contracts and really with seal bids to see who qualifies to make sure that our Gambia, that the country, and Banjul in particular, gets the most out of this. That didn't happen. So that's why it ended up in the wrong hands. And those wrong hands will make decisions that they don't qualify for and they don't know. And that's why we're in where we are.
All right. Thank you. Vawara, the taxes issue. They said that taxes were paid, and then I was reading about that.
Yeah.
And the GRA, said that the taxes have been paid by Adam Gay's company.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is there? Because there were conflicting messages about that.
That's also another key point that the public want to know. I'm sure the audit department will not just come out and say something like the company did not pay tax or supposed to pay tax, did not pay. I'm sure they will not do that without no evidence, So I have no doubt in my mind that the audit department did their job, all right? Because that's their job, to look at projects, appraise them and then find out where it goes wrong. and what the government and people of Gambia needs to get, and they highlighted it, And then that's what the audit did. But all of a sudden, we saw that at the press conference, they bring a whole lot of ministers from higher education, to Minister of Works and Communication. They bring GRA and then all those people to come over because the contractor was not even there. But they say the contractor works for the government. So where the contractor is not going to be available, they are the one they can be able to respond on behalf. So like you all heard it from the press conference, GRA turn around and say, in fact, the company has been paying tax. Yes, we know that every company that's registered in Gambia do pay their taxes, but we are talking about this particular project, like the findings of the Auditor General have just highlighted. They've just did not pay tax from that project money, not like the company not paying taxes. That's two different things, but GRA right there, they just defended the contractor, and it looks like they're not going to be paying taxes anymore. That is supposed to come to our coffers for national development. But here we go. That's what GRA said. So they are the institution responsible for tax collection. So if they say so, then what can we do? We just take it for their words, because they're the experts, they know better. But I know Auditor General will not just come out of the blues, and say something that they are not sure about, So
right.
Yeah.
So
you think that there might be a cover up there?
Yeah, because we have seen the government taking how they're taking up this action, because they're the one responding, in fact, all the questions. So obviously the contractor is already back up there, because the contractor got nothing to do, nothing to come out and explain out of when all this got happened.
Maybe they are the contractor in disguise.
You never know whether the contractor was even, whether the money is even with the contractor, nobody knows. Maybe he's just there by name, but the funding is being spent, whoever needs to spend the money, so nobody knows. But this is one of the contractors that can get away with stuff like that, and then nothing comes out of it. I think
this is the second time the contractor is missing in a press conference, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So you think the government...
Public travel to an unknown land, nobody knows.
So what I would say about that is this is where our National Assembly need to get up.
Yeah.
The National Audit did their job. They did their part, and thank you to them. They've done a great job, and all the recent revelations that we've heard from the National Audit team have been outstanding. They've been doing a great job. Now the rest of the work really needs to go to our National Assembly that represents people. People elected them by vote and put them in office to represent us. They need to hold the government accountable. Think about if this was the United States of America. That contractor would have been sitting in a hot seat in Congress, in front of Congress. They would question him in every single question. They will ask for every single evidence, right?
Why don't we have that in the Gambia?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm going to say, that I want the National Assembly to take up this case. Forget the government. Bring the summon the contractor to come to court and sit face to face and let them fire their bullets and ask him every single question they want to know, right? Then they should summon Balaam Job to come to the Congress, the same thing, National Assembly for the same questions. They need to bring Mambu Njai into this. They need to bring Elijah Caesar into this. They need to bring all the people that are involved in this and question them, and they better bring their evidences, and including GRA. GRA needs to come with the evidence that is Hadim Gay paying taxes. You're saying, yes, he pays taxes. Let's see the evidence.
Right.
They need to do all the investigations. Let's see, where is the evidence that he paid taxes on this contract?
Right.
In the years before that. We want to see all of it. That's what Gambian taxpayers want to know. That's what we want to know. So that is the job of our National Assembly, to summon all these people, bring them in individually, and they better come with their evidence. If not, they won't be held accountable. And this is where, if the National Assembly sees that, wow, this was a calamity, this was a catastrophe, this was something that really went wrong from the beginning to end, and the government was not capable of controlling this, or government had hands in it, and people in the government were bribed to really defend this contractor, well, this is where the National Assembly can say, you know what, this is not the first time, is not the second time, is not the third time we're going through all this, put their evidences together and go for a vote of no confidence in this government. If they vote of no confidence in this government, then what that is going to bring is going to require once they vote and pass that vote, is going to require IEC to immediately within 30 days conduct a referendum. And they're going to do a referendum. When they do a referendum and the Gambian people vote that they don't have confidence in this government, guess what? The president and his government are out. That's how you get them out. I mean, it will get them. We don't have time to play. Gambia is 57 years old. We're 57 years behind time. I've been saying this over and over and over. We should not accept any single individual come to waste Gambia's taxpayers' money. We have hospitals that are dilapidated. We have roads that we don't even have good roads in our country. They built some good roads, some roads somewhere else. Good, thank you for that. But the majority of our roads, I'm in this rainy season, try to go between Serakunda, London Corner, Bundung, Brikama, all the way to part of Brufut, and just try to go in town and see what happened. Okay, we have all the hospitals. Our patients are dying. You know, our farmers are there. They can't get fertilizer correctly. You know, very expensive. Everything. I mean, look at the transport drivers are calling for sit-down strike tomorrow. I mean, there's so many things that are going wrong in our country. So we need leaders that are going to take action and fix our problem, not leaders that are going to benefit from contractors and make the Gambia's taxpayers and these poor people suffer. We cannot accept that. So that's why I said National Assembly really need to step up and do their job. The National Audit did their job. National Assembly need to get up and do their job and let the right thing happen for our country. That's what needs to happen. And that's what I'm calling for.
That is loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Mfamara, what is your take? Your final take on this? You are mute.
Yeah, I just want to support what Sam just said, because this is a whole lot of money spent on this project. You know, the moment that the flood happened in Banjul, that's the time that the government should hold the contractor accountable. Know what is happening. They need to find out from that point to know exactly what happened, you know? But like I said, you know, if the government is backing the contractor, and the government is involved themselves, like they said, then they will not be able to do their job like they're supposed to do. That's why the contractor is not feeling the pressure anymore, you know, because he knows that, you know, the whole ministry is backing him. You know, the whole state house is backing him.
You think they might be working together?
Yeah, because when this project first initiated, we had the mayor of Banjul had some little bit confrontation with the former minister of Works by Lamin.
Yep.
That how can you guys do this without involving me?
Yeah, I remember.
I don't know anything about what is going on, you know? So like Sam said, from the word go, nothing is right in this project. Nothing is right, you know? So this is why whatever is going on,
but
and no action being taken, it's not a surprise.
It might be a backdoor deal, right? Backdoor
exactly. Nobody knows. They never advertise the job, you know? It has not been tendered. You know, you cannot single source such a big project and hiding behind the pretext that this guy want to pre-finance it because the government don't have the money. So he's the one spending his money first. That way you can give that as an excuse that we don't have the money at the time. So this gentleman wants to pre-finance it.
Let's give him because he's ready to prepare.
Exactly.
But that comes with prices though, because here, if I give you money, that money is supposed to be invested somewhere. So you gotta give me the interest on that money. That's how this works.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So there's a lot of wrong thing going on. But like Sam said, our National Assembly, this is their job.
Yep.
They have the power to hold the government accountable.
That's it.
A National Assembly member can call the vice president to come to the assembly to explain.
Yeah.
A National Assembly member can call the Minister of Works to come and explain.
Yep.
If, like Sam said, if they said they have paid taxes, let us show us the proof. That's what the GRA should have shown us at the conference, that this is a receipt, this is what they have paid, and this is the amount, and this is the date that they pay, so people can get convinced. But in audit office, you know, they do their job.
They are doing a
They
great
did
job.
all the investigation. They know where to know what the records are to prove that these people have paid or not paid. So they cannot just come out and say, you know, the contractor did exempt the taxes without no proof.
Yeah, but then did they say whether you know, he paid or not?
Who?
The audit department.
Oh yeah, they said they did not. So if the National Assembly member is serious, right, they want to find out, let them go to audit department, audit have all the evidence.
Audit said they did not, and then the government is saying they did. The GRA is saying they did.
Yeah.
So now National Assembly come as a referee.
Yep. They need
National Assembly should set us free. Yeah. And
Yep,
I'm glad they say they're going to do something about it. So let's
yep.
wait and see.
Yep.
Because in the explanation of GRA, it looks like they are mainly talking about the contractor paying taxes to the government, not the contract itself, the Banjul project itself, but the contractor and his company that have been paying taxes for many years. That's what they said. We're not talking about the contractor and the company. We're talking about this particular project for Banjul project. That's where the tax is not being paid. So they should have just shown us a proof when they pay that.
Are they confusing the two?
I think they're confusing the two, or they're just trying to cover.
No, they are confusing the people. That's what they do. They're trying to confuse the people. That's what they're trying to do, confuse the people.
These are two different things. Of course, the contractor would pay his taxes every year.
So this is why it needs to get in front of the National Assembly. GRA's whoever that is, that person, whoever that is, their boss, need to sit in front of the National Assembly. That way, there are very smart people in there that are going to ask him, all right, forget about the previous taxes. We want to know, on this contract, did they pay tax? Yes or no? They're going to get to that question. Yes or no? If the answer is yes, show me the proof. That's it. Show us the proof now. We want to see the proof. And there's nothing like, I'm going to get the proof and bring, no, show me the proof now. Show me what did they pay? Because you knew you're coming for this interview, for this session. You knew all the things that is related to this. You need to bring everything in it. And in fact, at the end of this investigation, they really need to ban and had him gay from getting any contract in Gambia for the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that, you know, he has to prepay. I mean, the government's job is to find money somehow, some way, and fund their project. Having somebody, you know, pay something who is going to be the contractor, that raises a red flag. Because if I'm in that position, guess what? I'm gonna dump so much, you know, money on top of, you know, my work, to the point that the money that I'm gonna prepay, that I will use for other investment, I will get factor that interest there, and in the end, you know, the government's gonna pay more. So it's better you close other loopholes and get the funding than just to go into an elephant project just for political score point. Because this was, you know, a rush for political gain, you know, as a big elephant project to say the government did this in favor of the president, so the election was coming and people can vote. So there's a lot of mix in this, and I think, you know, the route is really backfired.
Yeah, it backfires when you do things like that. It comes back to bite you. It comes back to bite you, and that's what's happening. So that's why we need our National Assembly to step up and find the truth for the Gambian people. Because at this point, I can't trust the government officials. Anytime why would they even call a press conference to go talk about a minister to call press? Oh, I don't know who is, not a minister, but spokesperson who had no clue what happened in this. Or maybe he had some clue, I'll say it that way, but who was not part of this negotiation, did not know anything that happened behind the scene. If he knew, he is hiding it, but someone that was not involved in it to call a press conference to talk about that.
And then the worst is that the ministry that's there now was not even present.
It was not even there. Yeah.
So that was not the ministry.
That's why Gambian people need the people that was involved in this.
Going out there. And he's the one going out there explaining something that you were never part of.
Yeah. In fact, if I were that minister, I would have said, you know what? I was never here. I didn't know anything about this. we need to allow the National Assembly to do this interrogation. Yeah,
but
let's take it to the National Assembly, have the National Assembly do it.
Yeah,
but
that's how.
Otherwise, it makes you look bad. That minister looks very bad in this explanation because you're talking about something that you were not aware of. You have no clue. You're there just defending the government. Every time something happens, this is part of leadership. Great leaders come out when something goes wrong. They come out and take responsibility, admit the fault, take responsibility, and tell the people what they're going to do to fix it. Right? They don't wait. Our leaders wait until something goes out of control, all right? And speculations go out, a lot of speculations go out. Then they come in and want to do a damage control. We don't believe in them. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I don't want any damage control. You want to come in, if you're a leader, come in first. Don't let any speculations come out. If you don't want speculations, come out first. Be the first to come out and say, hey, something happened. Talk to the Gambian people, and the president can take the lead here. The president should be able to call a press conference himself and say, this is a lot of money, taxpayers' money that was wasted in this. I want to investigate this. I'm going to find the truth, and I'll get you the truth. That's what the president should do, and not allow any nonsense to happen. Don't get anybody else involved. President should task the National Assembly and stay out of it and say, you know what? I'm going to task the National Assembly to form a commission and go after these people, find out what happened, and let's hold them accountable. That's what the president should do. And that's where he would gain a lot of respect. But having a minister or someone else come out and talk about something that they have no clue about is just blackmailing people.
Yeah.
And manipulating and making things even matters worse for the Gambian people. We need a National Assembly to step up and do this.
Yeah, I think this has been the mode of operation for this government and previous government, even German government. They send their surrogates when something happened and try to make people believe, oh, no, it's this way, it's this way, it's this way. And in the end, guess what happened? He sits in his chair in his office, wherever the president is, and, have them, surrogates go. Like they were scrambling like wolves, trying to, fix everything in the public eyes. But in the, people who think critically, they understand that the dots don't connect. Ibrahim Silla over there, Sankara over there, where is the elephant in the room? Bring Hadim Gay. Let him speak for himself. He's the one who did the job. Don't hide him somewhere. Let him come. But you there acting like you're the one who did the job. So at the end of the day, we have no information. All we have is a bunch of, false information. So I think this project is just a patch. Let them patch it. At the end, let the National Assembly see how it could be. The money could be recovered or somehow or fixed the problem. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Final thoughts, guys.
Thank you very much, Sawane. Very interesting. I guess we still gotta continue asking questions until National Assembly member comes out, because the project is not over yet. They only did few activities apart from concreting all the streets of Banjul, and then some of the gutters have now been upgraded and stuff like that. But still, there's a lot to do. So hopefully National Assembly members will do their job by inviting the contractor. And if necessary, the vice president should come as well, and give us some more explanation. Yeah, and we need to hear from Mambure and then by Lamin Job, what they did. We need to hear from them because too much money, is spent on this project, and then we need to ensure that, public funds are not being, are intended, goes to where they're intended to go, So very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mfamara. Sam, final words.
Yeah, my final words will be my first words. This is, it went wrong from the beginning. It was a wrong beginning and wrong ending for this. So as a result, I definitely call for, and I've called this before, and I said this before, National Assembly need to do their job. Gambian people elected them into office to hold the government accountable, to pass laws, and all the tasks that they have on their hand, one of them is to hold the government accountable. So the National Assembly need to find the truth in this case. Summon all these involved parties to come to the National Assembly, put it on television, let's televise it, allow the media to get it, let these people sit in that hot chair and answer all your questions. Let the Gambian people see it for themselves. That's what I asked for. That's what needs to happen. It's going to set a very good example for future contracts, because future contracts will be really tendered. Not only that, everyone involved in that contract will know that, well, if you mismanage this contract or you look for your individual interest instead of Gambia's interest, this is what's going to happen. You can end up in front of the hot seat in the National Assembly, and you will have to explain, and you will have to get all the evidences. If not, they're going to ask you to resign your job, or they're going to vote incompetent for you. I mean, like you are incompetent in doing your job, and to an extent where the National Assembly can even vote a no confidence for the government itself. So very important. I want the National Assembly to do their job and let the Gambian people know what the truth is here.
Thank you. Yeah. And one thing I noticed, that if there was no rain, we wouldn't have known this issue. If there was no flooding like that, this thing would have been under the carpet. But thank God, God is always looking out for Gambia. And he brought up this big rain. And now, as in, the president and his teams, everybody up to their knee, walking in the water. Everybody is at dismay. How did this happen? So sometimes when you do stuff, you gotta watch out, because God is watching. And that's the take from this. God is watching, and then he will do something that will prove your work wrong. So it's better always to do things right. And so that transparency and making sure you are accountable, so that people can know that the work is done. So I think that is the lesson learned from this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
We catch up next week.
The under 23 are playing today, so we wish them good luck.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yep. Good luck. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
See you all later.
All right.
Yeah.
Right.